11 most aspiring games that were never released. The video game industry is no stranger to canceled projects. In fact, it keeps happening every now and then, often to the great disappointment of players. It is tragic, really, to see the developers work for months or years only for their baby to never see the light of day. There are several reasons for such an outcome. It could be technical issues, legal issues, financial problems, and even time constraints that block the release. At times, it so happens that the project is stalled after a big announcement. Then again, we have seen instances where the public got a wind of the game after the cancellation. All the hard work is changed into a few screenshots, gossip, and videos like this where we analyze how the game could have turned out. This video is in honor of these fallen games that got cancelled for some reason. We felt some of the following projects were destined to be greats, and do let us know in the comment section how you feel about them. Prince of Persia: Redemption. It was a project that could have stolen the show with the finesse of the conventional Prince of Persia games. It was created by notable animation director Kai Nguyen and his team, while the concept artist who worked for previous Prince of Persia games was roped in for the project. The elements of the gameplay available might be misleading, as they show the titular prince to have the power of teleportation and enemy manipulation. The success of this franchise needs no introduction, as it was one of the most popular ventures for Ubisoft. It kind of fell into the shadows after Assassin's Creed became an even greater success. This particular game was slated for a release on PlayStation 3, Xbox 360, and PC. Prince of Persia: Redemption was supposed to release in 2010 to 2011, and in the recent past, some of the videos of the gameplay surfaced online. In these videos, we can see a short-haired protagonist who is probably the prince. He shows his powers of the Sands of Time, and the way he tackles his enemies confirms the suspicions. What is even more baffling is the fact that the video was on YouTube from 2012, and yet nobody really came across it thanks to the algorithm quirks. It was leaked by a 3D level artist involved with the cancelled game. If there were still any doubts about the origin of this video, Ubisoft's assistant technical director validated the footage by commenting on it. There has been a long history of Ubisoft canceling Prince of Persia games because the original creator, Jordan Mechner, still has the license rights and the profits are considerably lower for the developers. Maybe it was one such instance, but for us gamers, it came as a huge disappointment. The Flash, the fastest man alive. When Bottle Rocket Entertainment first started working with this game, they had some rather ambitious plans for the project. Flash would be shown as a rookie who was struggling with his abilities and enemies. The player would have to move through various speed levels, and the gameplay would involve tricks in the air, running off the side of buildings, and even grinding off rails. A feature was being planned that would allow the Flash to plow through objects once he reached a certain speed. The concept of attacking enemies was also pretty unique, where the player had to execute a quick attack with the right combos to get the better of his foes. It is true that the popularity of the Flash back in 2008 was nowhere close to where it is now. However, it could have changed with his own video game. Unfortunately, it was not to be, as the publishers eventually pulled the plug on this project. They were adapting the origin story of Wally West, and it was supposed to be an open-world action game that had a large map encompassing Keystone and Central City. From what we hear, the gaming mechanics would have been pretty unique, with extensive focus on the running aspect, to justify the incredible speed of Flash. His ability to maneuver at high velocities would also have been highlighted. There was supposed to be a Speed Force-based combo system and a mortality gauge for the gamers. The cancellation came under tragic circumstances, where Brash Entertainment, the publisher, filed for bankruptcy, even before the project was completed. As a result, the developers, Bottle Rocket Entertainment, never got the chance to release the game, and it was terminated in 2009.
Ready to breach.
Go, go, go! Follow my lead!
Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six: Patriots. If the trailers that surfaced are to be of any indication, this game would have been far more context-based than the previous games in the Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six series. This game was to be premised in New York City, and true patriots, a brutal terrorist organization, would be seen attacking the wealthy businessmen in demand of economic equality. Team Rainbow was about to face an organized militia made of homegrown insurgents. The players would have to face several strategic and ethical decisions in the course of the gameplay. It was slated to be a tactical shooter game, much like the previous installments in the series. The game was being developed and published by Ubisoft, and they had added an unprecedented narrative to spice things up. The storyline was rife with some intriguing what-if situations that were inspired by real-life situations and characters. The players could experience events from multiple perspectives, and it would have been a unique experience to say the least. The Rainbow Squad was more efficient, and the gameplay had added some deadly tactics and innovative combat movements to make things fresh. Even the weapon systems were fully redesigned. The multiplayer experience would have been surreal, given that the players would improve their game as a team with better communication between teammates. The scan mode would allow a more strategic approach while attacking the enemy in the best possible manner. The addition of a new leader of Team Rainbow put a moral dilemma on the narrative of the game, because he believed that ethics were irrelevant while dealing with terrorists. This FPS was to be released for PS3, Xbox One, PS4, Xbox 360, and Microsoft Windows. The game was prematurely announced because Ubisoft feared that someone could leak the footage. The following year, the creative director, the narrative director, and the animation director were removed from the project. In 2014, they finally announced the cancellation and focused on Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege, the next game in the series.
Somebody shoot this motherfucker!
Prey 2. The plot was related to the first game in the series, where an alien spacecraft appeared over the United States and started abducting humans. Domasi Tawadi, Tommy, was one of those abducted, and he had some special powers that could deter the alien forces and free the captive humans. Prey 2 would show a passenger plane crashing into the alien spaceship. The US Marshal Killian Samuels is knocked unconscious in the battle with the aliens, and after many years, he is seen as a bounty hunter with no memory of his past. He runs into Tommy and slowly starts regaining his lost memory. Now the two will team up and fight the common enemy.
Target identified.
This first-person shooter was supposed to be a sequel to the 2006 video game Prey. It was being developed by Human Head Studios and was to be published by Bethesda Softworks. The marketing VP of Bethesda confirmed that creative differences led to the cancellation of the game. He felt that Prey 2 was not quite turning out to be what they had in mind, and they eventually decided not to go ahead with the project. The developer and publisher clashed and had very different plans regarding the direction of the game. Ultimately, they went separate ways, and the project was cancelled. The only good news in all this is that the franchise will continue to deliver the expected quality with more Prey games. The new gameplay trailer looks impressive, and gamers surely have a lot to look forward to in this franchise. However, with the kind of story that was planned for Prey 2, we bet it would have been an absolute showstopper. Gotham by Gaslight. The general premise as pitched by Day One Studios had one of the most intriguing storylines featuring the Dark Knight. Presumably based on the comic of the same name, it dwelled on a version of Batman set in a steampunk version of Europe in 1889. The narrative would focus on him navigating Earth-19 during the Victorian era, and guess who would have been his main villain? Jack the Ripper, the notorious serial killer. Batman fans have been hardcore loyalists, from the comics to the movies to even video games. The savior of Gotham City has been seen as the protagonist in many titles, but Rocksteady Studios changed the dimension with their Arkham series. Gotham by Gaslight could match up to the high standards set by Rocksteady Studios and deliver a game that would bring the superhero to life in the most satisfying manner. Day One Studios not only came up with the idea, they even made an early prototype of the game that is available in video form. It was being developed for Xbox 360 and PS3, but the project got cancelled for some unknown reason. The cancellation was all the more sad because the leaked footage and concept was praised from all quarters. People loved the misty Gotham setting fused with the Victorian England vibes. The look of Gotham by Gaslight would have been stunning, and we wish things somehow worked out. Star Wars Battlefront 3. The Star Wars Battlefront franchise has seen numerous ups and downs. The original games created by Pandemic Studios are loved by gamers, and the relaunch attempts by EA and DICE Media proved to be a bit dicey. Battlefront 3 was being developed by Free Radical Design, a much-loved developer known for classics like the Time Splitters series. They were considering some new takes on Star Wars lore and tried out alternate storylines. One such plot would involve an older version of Obi-Wan Kenobi, who was corrupted by the dark side of the Force. There would also be a Jedi version of the evil Darth Maul. You know the game would have been awesome when after all these years it still sounds like the quintessential Star Wars game. Battlefront 3 was infamous for the stagnant development process. The game was supposed to be released for the Xbox 360 and PS3. The core concepts were retained, although the footage suggests minor changes in the alpha builds feature. There were new characters, more weapons to pick from, and more planets in the narrative. It had a full-length story mode, and the surface-to-atmosphere combat mode made the battles very exciting. The downside of the game was the decade-old tech that clearly shows in the videos that surfaced. LucasArts partnering with Free Radical Design was having some administrative issues. People were being fired, the company was restructured, and the project suffered. This was no cheap game to develop, and finally, they lagged on the work. They failed to pay Free Radical Design for over 6 months. The studio, in turn, failed to meet the 2010 release deadline, and the project was cancelled. All the hard work led to nothing because after the Disney acquisition, things turned bland. There was a Star Wars Battlefront reboot in 2015, but the content was nowhere close to what this could have turned out to be. Not only did we get robbed of this fantastic game, but we also saw the end of a fine developer, Free Radical Design, which didn't even have the funds to fight it in court. Doom 4. The player would join a ragtag band of militants who formed a resistance force against an invasion of Earth by the forces of Hell. The plot was premised in destroyed city locations, sewer tunnels, and an overall apocalyptic setup. It was being taken up by ID Softwares and Bethesda Softworks, and the gameplay had an uncanny resemblance to Call of Duty. The Doom franchise has been so popular over the years that many tend to forget the cancelled game in between. Doom 4 was announced in 2008 following the massive success of Doom 3 in 2004. However, the project was hit by frequent delays and other problems that stalled the release indefinitely. From what we have seen of the leaked footage and screenshots, the cancelled project was a visual delight with a cinematic look. It was very different from the earlier installments in the series, and the narrative relied on a two-way dialogue between the characters. The story was more of a war drama, and the gameplay was extremely realistic with elements like jumping over barriers and taking cover, as in Call of Duty. In fact, the stark similarities led many to believe that this was nothing but a Call of Duty ripoff. This is why the cancellation might have helped the success of the franchise in the long run. If the game released and got dubbed as a Call of Duty clone, it would have been a big blow to the reputation of the Doom series. In fact, during the later reboot attempt, they used some elements of the cancelled game, such as the locations and weapons, to good effect. 8 days. As the name suggests, the game was to be set over the period of 8 days. It would have been premised across 8 states, which made it one of the most extensive maps during that time. The real-life clock was a very exciting feature of this game, and if the player played it during the night, it would be nighttime in the world as well. The player could choose between a good or bad character. The good was a detective looking for the mob syndicate, while the baddie wanted his revenge on the same mafiosos. During the narrative, their paths would cross, and ultimately, they would be working together. London Studio was developing the project, and a glimpse of this game was shown during Sony's E3 2005 press conference. It was supposed to showcase the great capabilities of the PS3, and the graphics were indeed next level. When 8 Days was cancelled, Sony had the most outrageous explanation to offer. They said that future titles demanded their resources to the fullest, and this did not fulfill their futuristic vision. In reality, Sony was trying to develop an online-supported game, and 8 Days no longer fit the bill. It is absolutely disheartening for gamers because whatever we have seen of this title suggests it could have been an engaging one. Sadness. Survival horror games are a rare species, and Sadness could have been a fine addition to the genre. The game was set in a pre-World War I Ukraine, and the plot revolved around Maria Langel, a Polish aristocrat. She was traveling in a train with her son Alexander when the train got derailed. Following the accident, her son became blind, and his behavior changed for the worse. It keeps getting worse as the game moves ahead, and the branching storyline was supposed to have 10 different endings. This nightmare was being developed by Nebris for the Nintendo Wii. Now, the developer doesn't really have a good reputation when it comes to canceling games because they have previously been involved with 2 other abandoned projects. In fact, many people started to think that Sadness was a hoax, as there was no playable demo on offer, or any trailer and screenshot to suggest its existence beyond the concept. However, we later learned that the game had entered production, and that there was a lot of problems regarding deadlines. They spent a painful 4 years stuck in development hell, and relationships with the publishers soured during this time. After Sadness was cancelled, another company claimed to have acquired the property from Nebris, but the claim was soon retracted, and we never heard anything again.
Alright, let's go.
Scalebound. This action RPG could be played in a third-person perspective, where players would control Drew. He would be accompanied by a dragon named Thuban, and they would go on various adventures throughout the world of Dracoins. The two would be bonded together, meaning the death of one would cause the death of the other. As a player, you could give commands to the beast to carry out attacks, and you had a choice to pick from 3 types of dragons. We have all complained about the shortage of exclusives for the Xbox One. Scalebound could have changed it all, had it been released as planned. Developed by Platinum Games, the footage available points to an action fest with lots of dragon riding. However, it was cancelled abruptly, and soon afterward, Microsoft made an announcement regarding the termination of their partnership with Platinum Games. It was supposed to be released for Microsoft Windows and Xbox One, and was scheduled for a 2017 release. The cancellation was a failure from both parties to acknowledge the commitment, and it is terrible to see such amazing efforts go to waste. Time Splitters 4. When news first surfaced regarding Timesplitters 4, fans were confused how the story would look like. After Sergeant Cortez defeated the Timesplitters at the end of Timesplitters Future Perfect, it seemed unlikely that you could do any sequel from there. This made many speculate that the game would be all about the gameplay and not plot. Later, we did get confirmation that Timesplitters 4 was indeed supposed to be purely gameplay with little story on offer, with only a rough outline holding things together. While not much is known about the unreleased game, one character was officially confirmed, a monkey in a man-sized mech suit. It was being developed by Free Radical as an exclusive title for the PS3. However, everything changed after Free Radical was bought out by Crytek. They revamped the projects and put this one on hold indefinitely. One of the major reasons could be the negative response to Free Radical's previous release, Haze. Talks of crowdfunding the project came up as well, but nothing ever materialized. Although Timesplitters 4 has been cancelled, we often hear rumors about someone reigniting the project. And even the original Timesplitters co-director has dubbed this as unfinished business. We keep our fingers crossed as we hope for any such possibility in the near future.